Welcome to The Other Side of the Bridge with Iron City Paranormal, where they discuss real investigations, first-hand experiences, unexplained moments, and everything that happens when you step off the regular path and onto the other side of the bridge. Just honest paranormal talk, Iron City Paranormal style. And now, here are your hosts, Derek Smith and Dan Metelsky.
Hey, yins, guys. Welcome back to the other side of the bridge with Iron City Paranormal. Guys, we are having a lot of issues trying to set this show up. Unfortunately, we're not doing this one live. We are recording this one a couple days ahead of time. And when I tell you that I have had nothing but issues getting this set up, I'm not joking.
And it's the first time it's like this. We've never struggled like this before.
It's the first time that we've struggled since we've been on the podcast, but it is not the first time we've had electronic issues when we've been talking about these kind of things, which is, Aaron, you brought that up when we were just talking. It's super interesting that the experiences that we had this past, not this past weekend, but about a week and a few days ago, at this location that we're going to be talking about, it's very spot on and on the nose with what we had happened while we were there.
Time and time again.
Which is just this, like, these electronic issues that we just could not explain.
And they weren't normal,
especially
right?
Audio issues. Right? Like so many audio issues with the recorders. And like for me in particular, you guys have already had to correct me multiple times because my microphone keeps on disconnecting and muting.
Again, that hasn't happened before. So, go figure. Yeah.
And
they don't want us to talk about them, man. They told us that. They told us that. Like,
right.
They showed us that. I mean,
so we've had to pivot off of what we initially planned on talking about tonight, which was, we had some cool stuff to let you guys listen to on what our evidence was and do like a little evidence review from our investigation of our most recent location, which was the Fairfield County Infirmary in Lancaster, Ohio. It's the second time that Derek and I have investigated, the first time that Aaron was with us. And we were super excited to show you the stuff that we got and let you listen to some incredible EVPs that we got, but it's just not cooperating.
Yeah.
So
the videos won't even load. I mean, we're gonna have some screenshots and things, but man, it's not the same,
Yeah. So I don't even think we're gonna get into that on this episode, but we're gonna talk about what truly makes this place unique. So we're gonna kind of pivot. Like I said, we're just gonna talk about the history of the location. We'll talk about the hype train that we internally created. Right, because the last time that Derek and I were here, we had some insane experiences with something throwing stuff at us.
Yeah.
Aaron, we were hyping you up. We were hyping it up to the other people that were with us. We're like, stuff got thrown at us last time. Like, it was awesome. And then, like, you're wearing a helmet when we get there. Like, right? Like, it's like everybody have your PPE on. We're going into paranormal investigation, right? And it's just like, it didn't happen that way. But what we got was super telling, and what makes this field, let's call it, a little bit more difficult. So we're going to get into all of what makes Fairfield County Infirmary one of the most haunted locations that we have dealt with in the past, but also has made it one of the sleepier places that we've investigated recently. But also what stands out on that investigation to just be different than the other ones.
It's extremely different. And a lot of it, we talk a lot about evidence versus experience. And man, this place was full of experiences. There's a lot that we can't chalk up to evidence. We can't, some of these stories that have happened, they're incredible. They're unexplainable, but you can't chalk them up to evidence. The EVPs we got, like you said, are incredible. I told you before we started recording this, I still see your face when I hear the one EVP because it was that insane, but these things, man, they came in waves the entire night. we started off strong and then it went away. And then the next room we go to, we started off strong and it went away. It was weird. There was no rhyme or reason to a lot of these things, but it was unique, put it that way.
And Aaron, what did you touch on earlier when we were talking about this as being a possible driving force to that, right? The larger group.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, whenever you guys went
happen
last time, when you guys went, it was just the two of you. You stayed, you know what I mean? Like whenever any of us are together, the dynamic is very different. But as soon as we add in more people, and I know Derek had mentioned this before, listening back through the recordings, dozens of times potentially over the course of those recordings, he had heard someone somewhere say, we need to break up. Like we need to part off. We need to do smaller groups. And whenever that did happen, we would start getting some things. But yeah, when we did have a large group, not as large as we'd anticipated, but we did have a large group that did make an impact. Especially having different dynamics there, right? Different people, different dynamics, different, all that.
And that's not always a bad thing, right? There's so many things that when we get into these, there's unexpected moments, it's the time frames that we get into it. I mean, I think, Dan, it was you and I that were sitting there. We were like, oh my God, we've already been here with our tour for like an hour and a half. Like we're not even starting yet. The place was a black hole for time. Even some of the locations we were at, we looked down at the time, the recorder, and it was like 45 minutes. Like, what are we doing? We're in this room for 45 minutes. It didn't feel like it.
Well, and the size of this location obviously it's massive, right? When Aaron and I did the walkthrough when we were taking the gimbal around, just taking video recording of all of the different rooms, it was a 30-minute walkthrough, and that was not stopping to talk. That wasn't stopping to like zoom in on things. That was just walking through each area, just using it so we had something to go back off of, because as we know in the past, when a doll moves and we don't have pictures of where it started, did it really move? We don't remember.
Well,
right?
And it came in handy. I mean, it absolutely came in handy when we were in the morgue. We were able to look back and we were able to confirm some things. But yeah, you at one point, you guys actually were like calling down, like, do we need to go in every single room? Like, no, we don't need to go in every single one of these rooms. Most of them, on the upper floors empty or one chair in it or whatever. It's like, it's a lot.
And to your point, Derek, like Dan, when we were walking through, like there were multiple wings that we walked through. We would go into 1 or 2 rooms on those floors, but the other 8 to 10 rooms, we just walked right past. So that's a 30-minute walkthrough there with probably missing, a third of the building that we didn't go into.
Easily a third of the building. The good thing. And I don't want to get too far into this kind of stuff because we kind of have to lay the lay of the land a little bit, right? Of like what the location is, what it has in store. But one of the cool things that I was excited that we got to do this time was actually not investigate, but actually go to the cemetery. That was something that Derek and I were unable to do the last time. Super excited that we got to see it. A little disappointed in what I had made up in my head. Here we talk about that hype train, right? I hyped up in my own head that this cemetery was in the middle of the woods. It was all run down, creepy, like trees that had faces were like reaching over top of us and looming the whole time while we're like, that's what I had made up in my head, to the point where when we saw the actual cemetery, while it was awesome and it was really cool, it just wasn't what I made it out to be.
No. Right. I mean, it was like, it was nicely done. It was on the hillside. You got a nice view of everything. And it was cool. Like you said, I mean, it was so old that the trees were going around they grew around some of the tombstones. You don't see that often. It was really cool to see that stuff. But like you said, like we built it up because last time we were like, okay, it's up over here. It's behind the building. It's going to be a little bit of a walk. So we're not going to do it because it was the middle of the night. This time that didn't happen. We wanted to hit it and we did it early. We did it first thing. We're like, we got to see this. We got to see what it's all about. And, it was interesting, especially knowing a little bit of the history to it, how many bodies are back there and all, but,
so let's use that. Let's use that as a segue. Let's get into what the history of Fairfield County Infirmary truly was. What makes it a haunted location?
Whew. I mean, where do you start, right? I mean, it was originally made as a poorhouse, and we know from experiences that these poorhouses were they were anything but but pleasant,
Mhm.
especially as time grew on with them. I know that this place was built in 1828. They got overcrowded within, I think it was like 10, 15 years. So they actually built on, and you can see it in this building. It just goes on and on because they kept building on and on. So by 1840, they had built this entire new wing and this big brick building, and it's really cool actually. When you're walking through it, you can see some of the original brickwork they have like plastered and set aside there, and you can see the old roof. So the age shows. But you know, I want to say it was 1865. So then you fast forward again another like 25 years, the place just keeps growing, and at that point, you know, it's a self-sustaining, basically a farm, a working farm, where the residents who were there, you know, they had jobs. If they were capable, they would go work in the field. If they weren't capable, they would be inside. They would be tending to the building itself or cooking. I mean, it grew to it was a little town, right? They had like a church outside. They had a kitchen. They had a barn. You know, they had a ton of land, and it was situated back then up on this hill. And I know you can't see it anymore, but the way that the path would go up to it, it was like when you're going there, you would be taking this wagon up this little dirt hill, and man, it's just sitting on top of the hill, and you know, talk about a looming presence, right? It's you're walking right into it. But the place itself, you know, we've talked to many people between our tours and everything that we talk about them as residents, right? Because of a respect factor, but they were actually considered inmates because they would start taking in people that it wasn't just the neglected people or the people they didn't know what to do with, you know, from poverty or sickness or disability even, you know, eventually they started taking in criminals, and this very strange mixture of people, even including kids, right? It's you get everything. You know, each floor was different. There was a kids wing, or a kids floor, I should say, a men's, a women's. There was even a family wing that they had for families that would come in. I know the attic was mainly separated into 3 different areas where they would have kids, they would eventually have the mental patients, and then they would have like drifters, you know, people that just didn't have a place to stay, and they wanted to come in and they wanted to work and have a roof over their head and have a meal, but then, you know, they got caught in this trap where then they had to pay all that off. And how did they do it? By working. So it was,
and I thought that was like so eye-opening to me, because they didn't bring that up the first time we were there.
They did not.
But the second time, just that dynamic of how people came to stay as long as they did at this place it started with people that were just looking for a roof over their head, you know, but they couldn't pay for it. Well, that's okay. You can work on the farm and you can pay off your debt in your living situation by working on the farm. Okay, well, that's great. Let's go do that. So they go out, then they get hungry while they work. Okay, well, now we have to feed you. So then they fed them. Well, then now they have to pay back that food that they got. How do you do that? Manual labor. Let's work it off, right? Well, then you work it off. Now you need a roof over your head again. So you're just like in this perpetual cycle of, I'm here, I owe you money, I'm working more money up, and I can't pay you again. So I'm just going to be here in perpetuity.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting you say that, because that was going to be my next point, is that there were a lot of people, you know, they didn't necessarily need to be there, but they end up living their entire lives there. You know, there were people born into it, sure, and they were there for a very long time, but there were people that went there and they got caught in those cycles, or something would happen where they would suffer an injury, or, you know, there would be people that even come back. They would come and go. They would be shipped off to some kind of mental asylum, and then they would come back because they didn't know where else to go or what else to do. Yeah. You know, you should see, this logbook was incredible. You know, just the amount of people who lived there and died there. And, you know, it's no wonder why that cemetery was so talked up. I think it was 1,500 people or so that ended up dying and being buried on site, to the point where they would actually bury people standing up and down, you know, so to save space.
Right. And let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say one other thing that I felt was really interesting too. Like we talk about the residents being there, living there and dying there, but she'd also mentioned when we were there that this was also a place in the community that people would come to. So it was used as a funeral home. If you couldn't pay for your own burial, people would be asked, even if they didn't live there, they would be buried there, right? Like, so even people in the community that didn't live there, they're still buried there and attached to that space even without having lived there, which I thought was interesting.
I mean, you think about that first floor too. I mean, how there were parlors, there were multiple parlors that were set up for people like you're saying, like that lived nearby, that came in, that would come for a funeral or a viewing, or I mean, they would even go to church there. It sounded like from
go
the
to church,
chapel.
they would come to give birth, right? Like this is the closest thing to a hospital for some people. So you have women coming to receive medical attention whenever they're pregnant, those kind of things too, that would have led to different issues as well in the time period, right? So like that's just yeah, it's much more like a lot of the places that we look at, we think of just the people who are living there and dying there, but like there's documentation that is much further reaching than that, which I think is really a cool thing to have documented.
There's just so much that they've said themselves that they've lost, or that just wasn't documented, you know. So they've tried to compile things as best they can, but the documentation back then, and from 160 years, like what are you going to do? What can you do? You know, they could really only do so much with what they had, and with the overcrowding and the understaffing, that's the last thing on anybody's mind, you know. And when these sometimes even these epidemics would hit, and to the point where where they would store their food, these cold storage locations actually ended up turning into the morgue because of the weather, because of, you know, if it was a bad time of year, you couldn't bury a body in the winter. What do you do with it? Put it in cold storage, right?
Well, it's very true. But and even beyond that, like they didn't, when they first started this place, they did not plan on having people die here.
No, that was never the intention. Like, you're right.
That was not the intention. So the what is now known as the morgue, which spooky, right? Let's go to the morgue and investigate, right? But what that was originally was a kitchen, essentially. Right, they would bring the livestock and they would slaughter the livestock. They would bring them into this like kitchen cold storage area. They would drain them of their fluids. They would drain the fluids directly into the stream that runs underneath the property, into, you know, the creek that runs into the town's water supply. But then guess what? People started living there and they started dying there, and now they got to figure out something to do with the bodies. So that kitchen where they used to just take care of livestock and like slaughter livestock, drain livestock of fluids and all that kind of stuff, now became the part where they need to start focusing on what do we do with these bodies. So then they started to embalm people there. They used the storage where they had typically where they still continued to store vegetables there, but also bodies and meat and everything else, right?
And the drainage for what it was for that purpose was kind of ingenious if you think about it. You know, they drained it right to the river, the stream down. You know, it was natural water source right under the building. You know, and great. And then all of a sudden you have getting sick. Exactly, and then you have to start emptying these bodies out. And where do you think that drains to? You know, your public drinking water.
So then the people started drinking embalming fluid. Right. And then the people in the town started getting sick, and then they had to create more of an isolated plumbing network and start, you know, maintaining their fluids, which is gross to say.
Just saying that.
They had to keep all their fluids there rather than drain them into the river or the stream or whatever. But then now you have the bodies that are preserved. Guess what? Now you got to bury the dang things. Right. So now how do you do that? Right. So now we get into the story of the cemetery. Right, which is boggles my mind, because I think we were told about it before, but like to see it now, to actually go there to see it and go up on the hill to see what they're talking about, it just caught my interest so much.
And if you think about it, talking about like the documentation, they didn't know that this is how they buried them. They didn't realize that they had that many bodies there. Not until they started doing some of the LiDAR scanning up there. You know, they thought that it was just, you know, so many bodies, right? Because they would be able to take the old dowsing rod trick and see where there were people buried, and it was the way that they explained it is just kind of unsettling, because when they started doing it, they would go a few feet, maybe 6 feet, 8 feet, and they would find the next body. Great.
Mhm.
That means that they're laid flat. It's perfectly fine. That's normal. That's a normal cemetery. All of a sudden, every 2 feet, they would start finding these hits. It's like, what's going on here? Why would there be so many of these? And why are they spaced so close together? And why are they only in a very small area? So then when they finally did these LiDAR scans, they realized that they buried the bodies standing upright to save space. And it's just, there's no words for it. You don't hear about that ever. That's not a normal thing. You hear about mass burials and things like that during war times and epidemics, but to intentionally bury bodies standing upright to save space, likely money, time, it's just, you don't really hear about that,
Mm-hmm. And when we went up to the cemetery, again, just to work on setting the scene here, right? There's the initial burial ground where there's 4 marble posts that are on the corners of where they have these LiDAR scans that they've achieved in the last, I think they said the last 10 years to 15 years, something like that. They've started doing these scans.
Yes.
Within those 4 pillars is where they're horizontal. And then they have a much larger area that takes up the entirety of the hillside with wooden posts with ropes. And all of that area, not including that ground within the 4 pillars, are all of the bodies that are standing up.
Yeah.
So what did they say? You said 15 or 1,800 people that they know of?
That's the problem, is they don't know. They're
Right.
not marked.
Estimate. Yeah.
When they buried them, they literally just buried them. There was no headstone. There was no marker. There's some of the superintendents that were there. There were some of the original markers from when I don't even know if the town used it. I'm not sure of that, but there are probably 24 headstones up there. But outside of that, there's nothing. There's not a single one that marks any of these people, not even a number. And it's the number that they've guessed is anywhere between 15 and 1,800. So they still don't know. And I don't know how much further they're going to take that, because those things aren't cheap to do either.
No. So it's just bodies stacked on bodies. Yeah. So fast forward, after this location was used, to house orphans, to house women who were pregnant without being married, and people would just drop them off there. Some people that needed a little bit more medical care, as far as for medical or mental issues or whatever. You have this hodgepodge of all these people living in one place with a superintendent that's running the show, right? You have all these people that are dying, not left and right. It's not, I don't want to sound like it was mass exodus, but it was just this massive amount of people that died there over the years. But then once that part of its timeline was done, then it became something else, right? Then the county bought the building and used it for record keeping and for deeds and everything else, something like that.
It was in operation until 1985 when they finally closed its doors. And then, I believe it was just the county offices that they used it as. So, you can actually still see it to this day, where there's, these places where they would keep the records, they built these windows around. So you would have the clerk behind the desk, and then you would have somebody come up asking for whatever records they wanted, right? So they would go through the window. You can still see it, that, the way that they did that. And during that period, they actually did a lot of work to it as well, because they had to get up to more normal codes. All of the staircases and everything, it doesn't look like it would have. The staircase would have gone all the way up from the first floor, the main floor, all the way up to the attic, and you would have been able to see top to bottom. They had to enclose every single one of those. And as you guys know, you make a wrong turn, you're running into a wall now instead of a staircase. So, they had to make a lot of changes at that point. But from there, I think they were actually going to, I don't know if they were going to demolish it, if that was the plan or not. But they ended up, making it a preserved historic national landmark. And I want to say that was 2013. And they started just kind of opening up to the paranormal research as they've been finding more and more things out. And it's actually, they have a lot of people that actually come back that used to work there or would live there. And they would tell these stories that, things were happening back then too. You know, so it's not just a new thing. It's not just the current people that go in there and see and experience things. People all the way back then, when they were living and working there, were experiencing things too.
Yeah. So we're going to run into the ad break here. Following the ad break, I want to start getting into, you know, the difference between the first time we were there versus the second time. The reason I want to talk about this, and I think it's very important that we discuss these kind of things, is because we've been talking ad nauseum over the last 6 months of episodes about, you know, not what makes investigations difficult, but what makes them unique and what sets them apart from like people that want to be just ghost hunters to people that want to actually go in and try to put a story together for a location, right? Just how the building is speaking to you or not speaking to you, those energy shifts, all of those kind of things that we experienced on this one, but then also, you know, the things on the electronic side that really made even putting this episode of this podcast together difficult. In our experience, we've seen these things happen. We're going to hit on those kind of things. So stick with us after the ad break. We'll get into this stuff. We'll continue the conversation about Fairfield, but also get into some things about what made this one really stinking difficult. So stick with us. We'll be right back after some ads. Thanks.
Every ghost story and creature feature lies a far more terrifying truth. The real monsters wear human faces. In the chilling book, All Monsters Are Human, from Derek Smith, 10 Twisted Tales expose the darkest parts of the human soul. From killers hiding in plain sight to obsessions turned deadly. Each story invites you to step into a shadow world where morality unravels, and the only thing more terrifying than what lurks in the dark is who. These aren't just horror stories. They're reflections of ourselves, showing what happens when fear, rage, guilt, and desire take control. Visit unexmedia.com for more information on All Monsters Are Human from Derek Smith. And you can purchase them at Amazon.com from unexmedia.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or Amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or Amazon.com. The truth, it's out there, and it's waiting for you. The Unexplained Network is your source for the best in paranormal programming, live video streaming, and audio streaming from hauntings, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids, and the ever-expanding realm of the unexplained. Listen live or on demand now on Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, and Pockets all over the World Wide Web. The Unexplained Network, where unexplained lives.
So I needed that break to kind of just refocus my mind on something, because this whole episode, for those that don't know, there's a lot of jockeying behind the scenes, right? Putting these episodes together, putting some thoughts in the notes that we can follow to make sure we touch on what we want to touch on, make sure we have the pictures on here so that we can show them to you, make sure we have audio on here we can show to you. This episode has been bonkers, right? Typically, and especially in the world of AI, we can take a show and we can fairly quickly put like an outline for an episode together. We'll tell it what we want to talk about. It'll kind of like put together a brief, summary. I'm even having trouble with that darn thing. Right? Like it does not want, nothing wants to cooperate when we talk about this. And what we've seen in the past is this is not uncommon, right?
Absolutely happened before.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on I think it was on one of our episodes, possibly on an episode that we did with other networks or something in the past, where we've actually had something that tried to kill you, Derek, where it attacked your computer to the point where it tried to set your house on fire.
Yeah, my computer wire literally sparked and set on fire, like just to get me off the stream that we had. It was so strange. I know we were talking about the Hat Man at that point and some of the crazy weird relics that I would keep in my office. And
well, we're actually talking about what followed you home on one of the investigations, if you remember.
That's what it all led to.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's where it all led to. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I cut out, right? I had nothing. Nope. I got nothing on my screen. And I'm looking around, I'm like, what just happened? This has never happened to me before. And I see behind my computer where I always have it plugged in just in case, because I don't trust these portable batteries worth anything. So I'm looking. I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this cord.
Battery packs. In my days, we've got Duracells and we put them into things and they ran.
You think a Duracell would work in a computer?
I don't know.
One chance the tangents continue.
Yeah, so the thing sparked. I think I actually took a picture of it to send to you. Like, what do you want me to do here? So that was it's. So this isn't the first time that something's interfered.
So we had, during this investigation, it was a little disjointed because we had 4 of us that were there the whole time, and then some people showed up late. So it was kind of awkward at the very beginning while we were trying to get set up. You know, we start around 5 o'clock at this location. We get the walkthrough with the tour guide. You know, we ask them not to focus on the ghost stories as much as the history, just kind of give us a sense of what's going on. Did it mute me?
Nope, you're good.
You're good.
Oh, okay.
I heard something.
My microphone was mute. See, like that's what I mean. I didn't touch my microphone and it was just muted. Like this is so bizarre.
It's one thing after another.
So we set up the investigation after we did the walkthrough and after we did the tour. We went straight to the area that we were all very afraid of.
Well, that all started because the tour guide didn't like it, and it kind of like just stemmed from there. So when we were setting things up, typically we'll go either in pairs or just individually if we're tossing a camera down, right? And I did not like that area at all. That's how it started.
Yeah, and when you are with somebody who is very well aware of the space that you're walking through, they've been there a ton, and you're walking through, and this individual stops right before they walk into this creepy hallway where it's pitch black and there's a light from a door, maybe like, I don't know.
Like an emergency light, like the red emergency lights.
Yeah, maybe like 15 feet in front of you, but it's just darkness from there to that light and darkness on the other side till there's a door going out.
And it wasn't even like a quick pause, right? We all noticed it to the point of like, what's going on?
And when this individual, you could tell because the way that she was talking, she's like, oh yeah, I've investigated here a bajillion times, right? I know this place. The spirits know me. And when she paused at that little walk pass through, she pauses and she very quickly marches right through past a room, does not stop and tell us what that room is or anything else. And it was either you, Derek, or Aaron. I don't remember which one of you said it, but you said you walked really quick through there. Why? What was that?
Yeah. I mean, it was a power walk, right? I mean, it was intentional.
So, I mean, smash that like button if you have ever had that happen to you, where you are
just making up for the last one,
and somebody walks very quickly through an area. No, so we get through this area, and she stops on the other side, and she tells us that she has had something very traumatic, at least from a paranormal perspective. Like it didn't like pin her up against a wall and like turn her upside down and shake all of her lunch money out of her pockets, but like it had an effect on her, right? So our heads were like, this area is messed up. I want to get this out of the way first.
Yeah.
And that's where we went, right? And typically, we give these spirits so many easy things they can interact with. We give them K2 meters, we give them REM pods, we give them ovuluses, we give them spirit boxes, we give them EVPs, we give them voice recorders to make EVPs. We give them all of this stuff. They weren't using any of it.
Well, usually it's like a roller coaster, right? I mean, we explain it time and time again, like it's fishing. You put out all these instruments, all these tools. If they want to use one, great. That's a start. Most of the time with these things, it'll start with something simple like a K2, and then it'll jump up to a REM pod, and it'll just keep going up until they either get comfortable with us or talk. They want to talk to us, and then the conversation starts or ends with the STs. But this was just confusing because you went in that room alone just to kind of start while we gathered the equipment, and the K2 was going off. I mean, again, one of those videos we can't show because it's not working, but the K2 was going off, and there were noises going on in there, and it didn't help that they had an infinity mirror that I just kind of plopped myself in front of, but
naturally
I was going to say it's the most Derek thing to do. Here's a place where there's two mirrors sitting across from each other where ghosts materialize and they suck the insides out of you, and then they come into our world, and you're like, that's where I want to sit. I'm gonna go sit right at that point where they just go ham on you.
Well, you see, it worked because things were happening, and then I left because I had to pick up the pizza.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't even talk about the pizza guy. We did have pizza delivered very late into the evening, so I don't know if that pizza guy scared them away, but whatever. But so here we are in this really creepy area where this person was like, "Don't go there. I wouldn't go there if I were you." When we're sitting there, nothing's happening. Nothing. Strike one, right? So we thought. Right. So at the end of it, we're gonna play this kind of stuff for you on the next episode, which will be next week, because we just
when things are actually working.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start the second we end this, and then gonna have to start into it making another one because of how long it's gonna take us. But we have this all on recording, so we get something. I run EVPs while you guys are getting the rest of the stuff set up. Something came through and said something to us.
I mean, we could talk about it, right? We'll just show it next time.
Yeah, we certainly could.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to remind me, Derek, Mr. Evidence Review Boy. I don't remember exactly what it said for that first time.
No, that was the second time.
Later?
Oh,
that
no.
was later. That was later.
Aaron, you were so excited about that.
No.
Just run it back. We'll give you your chance. We'll put you big on the screen whenever you get excited next time. The first one we heard when we were there, just like a whisper, something. That's not Aaron. So we heard something while we were there, and in our review, you're asking if they could step forward, touch any of these devices, do anything. And what we actually heard was, I'm not interested. I mean, straight to the point, early on. And that was almost that,
So that was an EVP.
That's correct.
Right? So for those that are not familiar, just in case we have somebody that crawled out from a paranormal rock, an EVP is an electronic voice phenomenon, which is not something that we hear audibly at the time, but we run a voice recorder we typically do 5 to 7 minutes, just because it's going to take a long time to listen back to it, and our time is precious and all those kind of things. So we were finding out if there were things that wanted to talk to us, and that's when they said they weren't interested, right? When we listened back to that EVP.
I don't think you were even setting it up at the time to talk. You weren't prepared for this communication. You were kind of setting the groundwork, right? There's this tool over here. There's this tool over here. You can talk to us this way. You're giving them the whole rundown of everything that we have that they can kind of, let us know they're there, so we can take a next step. And just right off the bat, I'm not interested. That's right. That.
Mm-hmm. So we get this EVP. When we hear that means let's continue here. There's something here that's there's a
keep in mind we couldn't hear this at the time. We had no idea what they said.
Well, we didn't know, but we heard something. We
Something.
did hear that something came through. We didn't hear them say, "I'm not interested." We just heard them at the time say, "Rah, rah, rah," and then we're like, "Oh, look, that's something that we didn't know about."
Let's keep going.
So then we continued to talk. We had the ovilus set up. We had the K2 meter set up. The entire time the ovilus said nothing. The K2 meter would spike occasionally.
For no rhyme or reason. I mean, it wasn't
Right.
like they were answering any questions or anything, but it was, again, like that energy just kind of spiked and then went away, spiked and went away, just every time.
And then right after we got that EVP and we start to talk again and we start another recording and we start to press a little bit more, we get something on the ovilus that all of us were just like,
Huh?
huh? You know, like it made zero sense at the time. And what was that word?
Aaron, would you like this moment?
Wait. Let me do this. Hold on. Okay, go ahead, Aaron. What was that word?
No, it wasn't on the ovilus. I don't remember what was on the ovilus. I remember
You
Erase.
failed. You failed.
erase. I couldn't remember if it was erase or if it was some other word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was erase, and we're like, what?
Yeah, and we
Weird.
were very much like we typically are during an investigation when these kind of things happen. We're like, it said something, that tool doesn't work, right?
That made no sense. Let's go this way instead.
Right. So we didn't think anything of it. And fast forward about 20 minutes, we finish up in that area. We go upstairs to order the pizza because, you know, by that point it was maybe like 7:00 or so, and we had some more people coming. So we wanted to, you know, get some pizza and just have it there before it got too late. Derek, you go back to listen to the recording to find
Aaron
out.
and I were both sitting in that room.
Yeah.
I mean, and I look at her like, there's nothing on this. Like, I probably went like super pale because I'm like, what am I gonna do now? I have no recordings.
Yeah.
And there was nothing on it. So I actually had to go through in the settings and recover all of the digital recordings that were in there, all the files.
That
it was
erased.
so weird.
It was erased.
It was erased. Like, what? So then, I mean, Aaron, if you want your moment now, we did hear something as we were listening back to it then.
Yes.
Okay,
was-
so wait. What was it? What did you say? What was it?
Resec.
There it is.
Which
Only
in
English I'm gonna
German,
remember. It's the only thing I ever heard.
which in German means, Derek,
Oh, come on. I don't
Fall into line.
Oh.
now.
fall into line. You were the
Fall
one that
into line.
figured it out.
I had to look it up. I had no
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
It took a lot of going back on that one because
So
it was
we tried to look it up as we
remember
were
it.
sitting there, and there was nothing. We couldn't figure that one out. So we had to like put it in different context for it to come through and
Right.
and to actually give us these words. But I mean, fall in line. That's the strangest. Like, what? I mean, between all of these things and then erase and then the thing actually being erased, like, what is happening? I mean, I don't know how much we want to speculate on this one, but
well, I think
know-
we need to a point,
sure.
right? Because this is one of those times where we as investigators and especially as Iron City, we're not going to say that ghosts are real. We're not here to disprove ghosts. We're not here to prove ghosts. What we're trying to say is we're trying to make a link to what we got that doesn't make any sense to us. And
Tell their story, like we always
we're
say.
trying to make sense of it in our heads just to help us comprehend what the heck happened, right?
Right.
So here's the speculation. Derek, let's hear it.
So we were told going into it that there were different languages to be prepared for, and this ultimately ended up being one of them. Now, there was a superintendent. This, as the story goes, obviously nothing is going to be documented about a guy that's like this, but he treated these residents as inmates, exactly as they would call them, and either keeping them outside extended period of time, keeping them locked up in the dungeon, not feeding them, beating them, whatever the case was. He would go along the lines of this very abusive and just would have no respect from any of them, to the point where some of them, from what our research said, did end up leading to some deaths. Now, this man's last name was Hummel, which comes from is German. It's German based. Now, from there, we kind of said, okay, there's maybe something to this, and then we looked more into it, and both of his parents were German. So when you put all of these things together, Did he speak German? We have no idea. Is it probable? Yeah.
I mean, one would think, right? I mean,
Right.
if you have two parents that are coming from another country, I know I work with an individual that is from India. Like they speak their native tongue at home to their child, right? Because they want their child to know the native tongue, which is, what I would do as well if I went to another country, and we would want our daughter to speak English above all else, right? But one could expect or suspect that that's what they did too. There's probably a household that spoke a lot of German, whether they were in Germany or not.
Sure.
That's just our belief, right? That's just, well, not even our belief, but just our thought in this scenario to why that would come through and not something in English.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to just speculate to an extent, but you tell me it doesn't make sense. We don't just randomly connect dots to these things. That was the maintenance area. And, when we were down there seeing a bunch of these shadows, hearing a bunch of footsteps on top of it through some of our cameras, like, it sounds like somebody's pacing, and if you think about it on a different side of things, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't he be in that area? Especially if you talk about all these things, the people that don't like this area, the negativity that's down here. That's exactly what he left, on this place. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense why we would be told to fall in line. Maybe he just saw us as other residents, inmates, whatever you want to call them. So it's hard to say why we would have heard something like that. Could it have been residual? Maybe. It seemed like it was more intelligent because it wasn't just randomly spouting things off between the erase and actually the stuff the files being erased on there. Maybe he just didn't want to be heard. That was my thought there with the erase. But the whole thing was very confusing, and we thought that we were off to a good start.
Well, we did, and I think that in hindsight we were, to a point, right? Like investigations are never boom, 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 boom. Here you go. Here's all your answers. Now we're going to talk to you over here. Now we're going to turn this light on. Now we're going to go. It's very, sure. It's typically the hit or miss kind of approach. But looking back on it, now that we're making these connections, now that we have some idea of a story to it, yeah, I think that it was, fruitful per se. Unfortunately, it's not cool. It doesn't show well, right? But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. Right. We know the experiences we had. And that goes into where I want to go before we end this episode, because we are getting down on time, is just how different the building felt, not only between the first time we were there, but the second time we were there, but also throughout the night. And this is very much what's going to lead us into the evidence review, which is just that ebb and flow of how that energy shifted from the time that we first did the walkthrough with the tour guide, when we had, Aaron, you felt it too. Like we were getting touched on our back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Most of the time that you and I were walking through that building, we were feeling like there was something. Every time we would walk out of a room, it would like touch us and say, hey, yep. Why are you leaving? Come back in here. Yeah. And you felt those like heavier, denser sections of the building as we'd walk through. And then it just shifted, right? It just changed and it kind of just went soft, right? It went quiet.
I remember a particular interaction that you and I had, Dan, whenever we were up in the kids' wing, up in the attic, when we got to the end of our walkthrough. And this is a place, if I'm not speaking out of turn, I believe this is the place where you guys had something, either a ball rolled towards you or something like that, the last investigation. Is that right?
It was actually the place where we had the pieces of stone thrown at us.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. In that room, wing of the room. Yeah.
And Dan and I were sitting around at this top floor, like other than the oppressive heat up there because it's hot, like there was nothing. Like I remember saying to you at one point, like, I feel like we could just like pull up a lawn chair and just chill up here. Like it felt so peaceful, and like soft was a really great word for that. Like it really did feel like soft around the edges up there. Like there was nothing that either of us were picking up on for a place that you guys had significant things happen last time. And like, just
Yeah, the intensity of it last time was completely
Yeah.
different. You know, even you take away the things being thrown at us, the feel of that building or of that room, of that area was completely different than it was here.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is also something to point out too. Like, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more last time, the energy in an area being sapped out, right? Like there was just a few weeks before, there was something that had happened there.
They had a Paracon of some sort there, I believe.
So they had a whole bunch of
big
people
convention,
going through, right?
So
And
I
so
mean,
you
could think of that either way, though. Like, would that pull more energy? You know, the people that are coming, or is that just suck them dry? You know, it's who's
like
to say? But this case, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So we had that initial shift where it went quiet, but then later in the evening, Sabrina, who was with us, or the medium that works with us, she goes outside to take a breather, and she looks up from the place where she was like taking a break. She looked up and she saw this light coming out of one of would have been the third story from the backside, which was so it was like the second level up from the backside, but the third floor of the building, down this one wing where the tour guide had told us where there was a very bizarre experience that took place with her down that wing. So Aaron, you and I went up, or was it you and I? I think it was you and I that went up there.
No, it was you.
It Sabrina?
No.
You went with Sabrina and Ayla.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So I go up there, and when I tell you every hair on my body was standing on edge, there was this electrifying feeling when we walked up onto that third floor down that wing where this light was seen. My mind was racing, and I had goosebumps on my legs. I've never had that happen to me in my life. And I felt it like this electric energy over my entire body as we walked down this hallway. And we got to this room where she had seen the light coming out, and we set up and we sat down in the hallway, and then you wouldn't believe it, nothing happened, right? Like there was this just surge of energy that led us up there that had shown itself in a light to Sabrina, is what we believe. We go to investigate that, and this thing that was making itself known to us just didn't want to talk. It drove me crazy.
What's crazy in that, though, is that again, it was an energy shift. So going from that to just sitting there and listening, you could hear the residual footsteps. It was incredible to hear that, but it was something completely different than what drew you up there. Mm-hmm. And to note that at the same time, this was the first time that we kind of split too. Aaron and I went down to the coffin room when you guys went up there. So, you know, the team started to split at that point when some of these other things did start happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was not at all what you were expecting.
No, and I don't want to say it pissed me off, but it pissed me off all at the same time, right?
That expectation, man.
I did. Like, here's the hype again. I was so hyped to get up to that floor because something was happening now. We saw a light.
Something drew you up there, you know? It's like
absolutely it did. It drew me all the way to a room, and then nothing happened, right? So, guys, we are out of time. This is where now we're going to transition into the EVPs that we did get on the next episode. Hopefully. We're going to take a lot of time within the next several days to put together and pull this all in so that we make sure it gets on here. But this is what we've been talking about this entire time we've been doing this show. You know, investigations always lead us with more questions than they do answers, right? Like, I came out of this investigation with so many what the heck's just happens.
Well, I mean,
you know, and much less of a story to tell.
You think about it, we didn't even get into the bulk of it towards the end with the very confusing Estes that, you know, it was another one of those crazy moments, but you know, it waited till the end to do anything. But yeah, that's just another one that we haven't really dug into yet.
Yeah. So thanks guys for joining us for another episode. Great stuff. We're going to get into a lot more on the next episode, getting into the actual evidence review. part 2. Guys, thank you for joining us once again on the other side of the bridge. Until next time, stay curious, stay respectful, and if you're willing to cross the bridge into the unknown, we'll do it for you. Come back and follow us to the other side of the bridge. We'll make sure you get back safe.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
great night, guys. Again, I say, toodles noodles.